Um, as a child, I absolutely loved films anyway, so I always had this idea that I wanted to make films, and I had story ideas for films as a child. I used to write short stories, not in a script form or anything like that. I just wrote short stories, but I always visualised them in a filmic way, and they were always very film-friendly subjects. And well, at that time, you know, I mean, talking like age 8 and 9, this was going on. I didn't even know that there was a person called a director who was in charge of what went on in movies. I just had no concept of who made these films and what was involved. I just knew that I'd love to make them. And I thought that the writing side of it was the way to be creative. And then I think I must have been about 12 years old, and I saw the making of Aliens just before it came out. That was on TV just before the film Aliens come out, and even before I actually saw the movie Aliens, that 1 hour documentary, I thought that's the role in the filmmaking process that I want to do, you know. And Cameron was very aggressive on set, and I thought, oh my God. But that didn't really attract me to it in itself, but I really respected a lot of the stuff Jim Cameron was talking about, his ideas and his ways of making movies. And he was very conscious of ways of getting the most out of available resources. And he talked a lot about that, practical filmmaking, where you're not wasting money and stuff. And I hadn't even considered those things before, so I learned a hell of a lot just from that 1 hour documentary. It wasn't really until a few years later I saw 2001: Space Odyssey for the first time. I already loved The Shining. I'd seen that when I was 7 years old, and it was just mesmerised and scared the hell out of me, but I loved it anyway. But when I saw 2001: Space Odyssey, I thought, right, okay, you can break the rules, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and people will still potentially love it. So then, from that point, Kubrick became my favourite director, just because of the range of subjects his films covered, Clockwork Orange and so on. Yeah, and I had the love of Scorsese and Spielberg, like a hell of a lot of filmmakers, you know, Tarantino. I had a lot of the classic, popular filmmaker influences that a hell of a lot of people who go on to make films. I was into a lot of those things as well. But just because of money, circumstances and stuff, and my own confidence levels, I didn't really have the courage to go out and make films. And there wasn't all the digital technology available. You could only make films if you went and did a university course of some kind, got qualified and got access to equipment that way, so it just wasn't even feasible for me. I've met a lot of other people who are trying to set up film festivals, and a lot of them are filmmakers who seem to have decided, rather than actually make films and submit them to festivals ourselves, we will run a festival and we'll make money out of submissions ourselves. So I do think that there's an industry of false hope that has been created in that way. And I definitely don't want to tar everyone with the same brush out there, but there's a lot of it. So for that reason, I haven't been submitting to festivals with anything since. Although my feature film, Turn in Your Grave, which I got the final edit done last year, I will probably be submitting that to some festivals this year. The very first short film I did, very, very positive reaction from a lot of people who saw it. Even like people who were sort of, you know, people would come in and tell me, so, Rob, to be honest, Rob, I thought your film was going to be awful. You know, they would actually say that to me, and then they'd say, but I was actually really surprised, enjoyed it, and so on. Because that first film had it had a sort of very straightforward narrative that was easy to follow. I sort of took, because people responded so positively to that, I sort of took that as a license that on the next film I'll just go a bit more crazy. And so yeah, the next film was very dreamlike, and I was doing a lot of weird subliminal things in it. And then the third film I did was The Advisors. The Advisors was a very interesting experience, because with The Advisors I decided I just wanted to shoot something that looked quite pretty and was technically very polished. You know, not in an over-the-top way, but was very conformist in the way it was shot. And the script was fairly straightforward, very dialogue orientated. And that was interesting because I found that females who watched that film tended to really like it, and a hell of a lot of male viewers were just, you know. So that was really a surprise, but I was glad I did that because I was targeting a different audience completely with that film. But when I was making the film, even though I'd told myself in advance that I'm setting out to make a very conventional, straightforward, dialogue-driven story, I couldn't help but add subliminal things on set. I just kept doing it. As we would go along, I was thinking, oh, we could stick that prop in the background, let's just arrange that light in there, let's have a shot of this. I just kept adding subliminal stuff. And that movie ended up being almost as packed with subliminal things as my earlier films were, you know, visual metaphors and stuff. I was getting a hell of a lot of positive feedback initially, and a lot of extremely negative, like hateful feedback, you know. It's almost like people were sort of, how dare you claim that this in this film means this, like I committed a crime. But yeah, that intense negativity from a small number of people, I found it important to respond to that, because I tried to look at it as a positive thing. I tried to think, okay, what's driving these people to do this? Obviously some of them think that I'm deliberately making things up about movies to make a name for myself, and I thought, well, it's important to counter that. If that's what they really think, then I must be given that impression on some level anyway, so I will try and counter that in some way. And there were people who just thought I was crazy, you know, and I thought, well, yeah, I might as well counter that as well. And so I started to make sure that as far as possible, everything in my videos and articles about movies would be supported by documented information of some kind, you know. They started to feel very academic. I was getting people who were writing to me who thought I was an academic. I was getting other academics, PhD level academics, writing to me who were fans of my work, and I thought, wow, if I've got them on board and they enjoy the stuff, then great, you know. So all the extreme negativity helped. So thanks to all those negative people. So I try and get that balance now between providing as much solid evidence as possible and not going overboard with giving too much information. And also I think that can be counterproductive in that if you're going overboard with too much information, it kind of gives the impression that you're not actually confident in what you're saying. So I'll try and condense the information, the support and evidence on any particular point, just down to maybe 3 or 4 key bits of information that are very strong, and leave the rest out. When I went to watch The Shining, the extended cut on the cinema as it was released here, I'd already seen it, but I wanted to see it on the big screen anyway. I went to watch it and I deliberately was like, right, I'm not even going to look for anything hidden here, I'm just going to try and enjoy it for what it is. And I did enjoy it, but it did feel a little bit spoiled. I couldn't get back into the horror side of it, and the scary scenes in the film, they just weren't as scary, because I knew there was other things going on. I just had it in my head that, oh, this scene, it's just hallucination or something. So it does spoil it a little bit, but I still enjoy a lot of no-brainer movies when I want to. So yeah, it's definitely easier with movies that I haven't written about.